Hello techies, I'm Divya here. On behalf of CyberBrainer, don't you think the world of tech is evolving faster than ever? Now is the perfect time to dive in and build the skills that will take you places. With CyberBrainer, we are putting you in the driver's seat of your own future. We at CyberBrainer don't just teach your interest. We believe that knowledge is power, but it's applied knowledge that truly sets you apart. Whether you're diving into data science, mastering artificial intelligence, or exploring the world of cybersecurity, our courses are designed to give you the skills that matter. So let's jump into the session and make the future yours today. Thank you.
In the last class, what we were discussing? We were discussing about Automation Studio, right? We had just finished Analytics Builder, and then I think we were just discussing the production or the overview of Automation Studio. Where it looks like, what are the different tabs that we have? We have folders, and then this shows the list of the different automation that we have in our home. And then you have got the Sunbeam. Let's deep dive and we'll understand more about the automation in this session. But we did not discuss about any of the activity. We just, I think, discussed about the overview. And I think we did discuss about the start and slow system, about the schedule and file flow. The differences between the two. Let's go through this once again, and then we'll go to the activities. Where do we use automation? Automation is used to automate the task. Now, what are the different tasks that we can automate? We have all this list of activities that we can automate. If I tell you a thing, that this is the task that you need to do. Last few things with two basic questions. You know anybody would ask when the question is given and need ask. The first question is that, what kind of task you want me to do? And another question that somebody would ask is when you want me to do this. Otherwise, like if the time is not confirmed, then when to happen? This is not, will be clear. And if the activity is not confirmed, when, like what to do. We need answers for these two questions. And then we are good to work to finish the task. The same way we tell the system and feed this information in the system that this is the time when you need to start. These are the different activities that you need to do. How to tell system that when to start? We have two different ways to tell the system that when to start and when should you start the automation. The first way is the schedule one. Schedule as a name figure. Schedule is this. We are going to schedule this for later point of time. If you are sure that what time it is to run. And we also know the prior, timing and everything. We know the timeline. We know the schedule. This is the time when it starts. And then this is the time when it should stop. And how many times it should run. What is the frequency of the automation? If you know all these things prior, then what we can do, we can go ahead with the schedule option and we can configure this. We keep on the configure button. I will show you the different options that we have. First one, we need to choose the start date when it should start. Let's give it 13th of June. And then the time, and whenever we have a different time, we always have a time zone because it has to rotate at what time, like in this time zone. We need to like this time should be considered. Now next thing is the frequency, like where it should repeat. I'll say it was the early. I want to run this. I want to send this email to all the customers who have made their update in their profile. But this is not a real time. This is in the batch process. The moment they update their profile, they will not receive the email. But what we are doing, all the reports of all the customers have made different profile changes. We are going to store them in a data extension, and early we are going to pick them and we are going to send them the notification. What we are doing? We are repeating this entire process of this automation early. I'll say early and repeat everyone and then end never. It is never going to end and it will be repeating everyone now. If you know the end time, start time, frequency, everything about the information, then we can go to the schedule option. But let's say we are not sure when a particular task needs to be done. We are not sure exactly about the timing. Imagine a scenario where we are expecting the data from the external team and they are not importing the data directly into the data extension or directly into Marketing Cloud. How the data is coming into Marketing Cloud is through FTP server. If there is a requirement that a file is being dropped on FTP server and on this particular event, we need to start the automation. The moment they drop the file on the FTP server, they need to start the automation. If that is the requirement, we can go ahead with another option that is called file drop. As the name says, file drop means that whenever the file is dropped on FTP server, we need to start the automation. Let's click on the computer button and see what are the different options that we have. It asks us to choose one folder in which a file has to be dropped, and then automation will start. We will choose BOP. I want this particular folder. If the file is dropped in this particular folder in the FTP server, then I want this automation to start. Now it also gives us two options for the file name pattern. If you choose no file name pattern, which means that it is particular to file name, that what it contains, it will start the automation. In this particular folder, if I drop a file, you know which is start with sample. If I drop any file, it is that name. It will start the automation. And then next we have is use file name pattern because I might be expecting different types in this particular folder. But I don't want to start the automation whenever a file is dropped. There is a condition applied now. First condition is the file should be dropped and the file name should contain the same customer orders. If that is the case, then only I want to start the automation. Now we have applied one more condition that the file has to be dropped in this particular location, in this particular folder. And the second condition is that if I want to send the customer orders, then only Marketing Third will start the automation using the file drop. These are two different ways how we can start the automation. Now, once the automation is started, if you expect it to start running now, when it runs, what are the different activities that we have tried and dropped on the canvas? It will execute all of them. Let's now discuss about the different activities that we have and how we can automate those. First one is talk about. Let's talk about the SQL. Are you guys familiar with SQL? No, we are not. Let's do one thing because SQL is an important part. When I do the segmentation, or if you want to join two tables, we will use the SQL code. I'll do one thing that we will discuss SQL in today's session that you guys have at least basic understanding. And also here are some practice questions that you can practice, and if you have faced any issues, then let me do that. Let's discuss about the SQL in Marketing Cloud. SQL is a structured query language. Now what happens is that if you see only application, any application in the world, if it uses the database generally, it would be SQL, right? SQL language that will be used. How things happen in the backend. If we talk about Marketing Cloud, what's happening is that we have this application and this is Marketing Cloud UI, right? All the interface that we are able to see together this particular application. There is a user interface, right? And we can also see the data extensions here in Marketing Cloud, right? We are able to see the data extension. We can import the data, we can export the data, we can add new results. And these kind of things we are able to do through the user interface. But it has to be stored in some database, right? There is some memory in our database where we are storing this data. It is available on the UI, but in the backend there is some table, or we can say there is some database where we are storing this data. Now what happens is that now we need to retrieve some of the data. We have a language for SQL using which we can communicate, or we can communicate with the computer and get the data from the system, or get the data from the data extensions. First thing is that we have data extensions on the UI, but in the backend we have all these tables where the data is stored. Now what we need to do? We need to retrieve the data from the data extensions. What do we need to do? We need to use SQL, which is a structured language, to retrieve the data from the data extensions. Now, how do we retrieve the data? We are going to use some of the commands like select from join-where on these things. I will show you that how it happens. Let me just duplicate this tab really quick. Whenever we want to do anything, we have to communicate this to the system, right? Now we are going to use one language. For example, if there is a Japanese person and an English speaker person, they will not be able to understand each of us language. What we need to do? We need to translate it that whatever we are telling, our translator can understand, and then it will communicate the same to the Japanese person, right? And vice versa. Similarly, in marketing terms, what we need to do? We need to retrieve the data from the data extension, but we have to communicate this in a similar way. We use this language called SQL, and using this language we are going to communicate the same thing to the system. That system can understand and get the results. Now if I tell you that, if I tell a person that go to this table and you will have to get me a report where the roll number is equal to Zalan 1. What this person will do? I'm telling this, I'm giving this instruction in the English language. What this person will do, will go to the table and will find where the roll number field is. And then it will start a scan. That is 1001. And once it finds, it will give me the entire data and that row and fetch me here, right? The same thing the system will do, but system does not understand the English language, right? We have to communicate to the system in SQL language. We'll understand that in English we have grammar, we have words, right? And we have other things as well. In SQL also, we have some keywords, we have some clauses and this kind of thing. We'll understand. How do we communicate the same thing to the system? Let's move on. Now, what do we need to do? We need to retrieve the data from the data extension. And this is where, like XO and many different cases, right? If you want to do the segmentation, if you want to summarize the data, let's say we have a data extension, and what do we need to do? We need to retrieve the data from the summarized form. Our client says that we have, let's say, many orders, right? And they want to now check how many orders we have processed for in this particular month. And apart from that, they will be checked. What was the maximum number of orders that we had placed in a single day or anything like that, right? Whatever you can think of, whatever you want to retrieve or you want to summarize, you can do it with the help of the SQL query. Let's go to data extensions and understand this in a simple way. First of all, let's forget about the SQL. If I tell any person that you have to go through, that you have to retrieve the data, right? Because SQL says that I can retrieve the data. Now this person will say that I can retrieve the data, but from this data extension we won't retrieve. We'll have to tell the data extension first of all. Now the person will ask me that from which fields you want to extract the data. Let's say we have 15 fields. Do you want all the fields or just selected fields? What do we say? We'll say these are the different fields that we want to get data from. And then the person might ask that, do you want all the records or do you want some specified records or some filtered records? How do we communicate all these things? We use this keyword called select. Select means selection. We are going to select the number of or the different columns that we want to retrieve. We say that I want to retrieve first name and last name. I'll say select first, move last name. What this will do? This will make a selection of these two columns from the table. First name and last name. Now I'll have to use this keyword called send. As you mentioned the table name, Amazon customer. What I'm saying is that from Whisper product, send it first name, last name from Whisper product customer. Sorry, from Amazon customers, which is the great extension. And then if I want to, let's run this. What is the Query Studio? This is the external application that we can install in Marketing Cloud account and we can use this. We have two different ways to run the SQL. This is the language, the code that we need to write somewhere. And then we will run this and then system like it will be passed to the system and then system will execute this and give us the result back. We need some place where we can write this SQL query. We have two ways to run the SQL query method. The first one is the Query Studio and another one is the SQL Query Activity in Automation. We will understand both of these. But SQL Query Studio is an external application that we can use to run the SQL. Let's click on the Run button and then we will see that if we are getting a result or not. What did we tell the system? That we need to retrieve these two fields from this particular table. Similarly, we have got all these. Now, if I want to filter out the reports, if I only want some filtered reports, all the reports from the data extension, what I can do? I can say opacity is equals to cowcov. I only want those reports. I need to use this opacity and then the column name is equals to and then whatever is the value. This equals. Let's say you have a requirement from the client that you know we have. All the data is stored in the master data extension. And what you need to do? All those customers who had signed up yesterday, you need to send them mail today. What you will do? You will filter out the reports based on their joining date or based on the sign up date. Let's say we have a column here for sign up date and wherever the date is the yesterday's date. And then what we will do? We fetch all those reports and then we basically have all the reports in one data extension and we send them the email. These are the three different keywords that we learned. First of all, select from and wait. Any confusion? Can you understand the SQL? No. If you feel any challenge for understanding this network, now that could be one possibility that we need to join the table sometimes. You must have seen that whenever we send the email, we can only use one data extension for the personalization. What we need to do, that we need to combine the details from two data extensions in one data extension, and then we need to use the data extension to send out the email. Or maybe what do we need to do? We need to find out a common request. Let's say we have a data extension A and data extension B, and all those reports were present in both the data extension. We need to find out those reports, and then we need to send out the email. It's like this scenario could be anything. But whenever you see in Marketing Cloud that we need to deal with two data extensions, without a doubt, we are going to use the SQL. There is no other way that we can combine two tables or combine two data extensions in Marketing Cloud to end up. How do we do it? The keywords are like we are using over here, which are very meaningful. Select means selection, from means from where it is coming, where means filter out the reports. And if you want to join two tables, we are going to join the keyword. Now let's say this first. You want to join two tables. You will say Amazon customers, and you want to join it with Amazon product customers. Since our data extension name contains spaces, I have to include this with this data. Otherwise, Marketing Cloud will understand that the table name is Amazon only, and after this space something else is written over there. But if you want to explain this data, this is not the three different tables. It is a single table which contains spaces. We have to include this report basis scrap efforts. Now we have showing these two tables. Now what do we need to do? That whenever we join the tables, we have to have a primary key. We have to have a promo key. What do I mean by that is if I tell anyone that let's say I have some information over here and then have some information over here as well. And I need to join two tables. Let me do one thing, because these are the same across one. We want to understand the difference clearly. Let me create a data extension and I'll say customer service. Let's say customer who placed the order and what is the order number. And then order date. I think these things should be fine. Who placed the order? What is the order number and the order date? This would be our data type, for the number should be a number. Should be customer ID can be a text. For now, just to make it simple, I'm making everything as null. And whenever a report is created, it means I'm giving it a default. The default value means a current date. Whenever a report is created, it will pick up the date when the report is created. If you want to create a data extension for me. Now what we'll do? I think we have the same name. I'll say Amazon Customer Service. If we are trying to create a data extension of the same name which already exists, then it doesn't throw a proper error. But if you are making some mistake in while creating a data extension, it will say it will throw this generic error that called error. We need to make sure that we need to figure out that what mistake you might be making. And based on that, we have to correct our mistake. Because it doesn't show the exact error. Let's go to the contact builder, and what we'll do? We will add some of the reports manually. We'll add a couple of reports, and this data extension contains the orders that are placed by the different customers. We have different customers over here. We have customer ID. And then we have these customers B followed tree store. And all these customers, what they are doing, they are placing some orders. We will add that customer B for 1003, place the order, let's say 0,001. And what was the date? And now what we need to do, we need to combine these two tables to the data extensions to see what the entire detail about the customer and the different orders that he had placed. It might. It is a very general ask that it is very common that the same customer might have placed multiple addresses. We'll go to the data extensions now. Let's say B for Lauren 3. Let me just copy this and paste the error here. And let's say order number is 0,001. It has to be, let's say, in 1000. That is the order number and order date. It will take automatically. Let me create another one. The same customer, let's say, has placed multiple addresses. Order number is 03. And let's say there is one more customer, B for 1005. Order number is 03 and 4. Now we have multiple cases. Let's say one customer has placed multiple orders. There is one customer who has placed a single order, and there are a few customers like B1004 who has not placed any order yet. Now what I want to do, that I want to see the entire thing. First of all, I want to see that who all has placed the order and their first name, last name, email address, and everything. If I'll just query, or if I'll just, filter, or if I'll just use the company on this particular table, what will happen if we only give the reports or the information which is present in this data extension? We file a user's query or another data extension, that is this one. It will give me the reports or the information that is present in this data extension. But if I want the information from two different data extensions, that I want to know that what is the first name and the last name of the customer who has placed this particular order, then what I need to do, I need to use two tables. I need to use both the data extensions. In that case, I need to use the join here. Now I have joined these two tables. Now you can think of this as a scenario that if I'm telling somebody that I have to combine these two data extensions. And what I'm saying is that in the back end that What I'm trying to do is that I'm finding matching requests that I need to find. I'm telling that the order number is going to be vulnerable 1. I need to get the first and last name of this customer. Now, how Marketing Cloud is going to identify that? What is the first and last name of the person who has placed this order? It needs some identification or it needs some. If I tell somebody that somebody has placed the order number as in 1001 and I need to know the first name and last name of this customer, how do I get to know? I need to have at least one normal fit between the two tables that I can relate the information. I can link the information. I can see that order number 101 is placed by this customer who has the customer ID B4003. Now what I'll do? I'll go to the state extension and I'll find out the customer ID B4003 and then I get the first name and last name. This is how I will be able to track, or this how I will be doing the entire tracing, that first of all, I'll get the customer ID and then I'll search the customer ID and then find the first name and last name. We need some common problem where we have the problem that we saw that we can link that information from two different extensions. What do we need to do? We are saying that join these two tables on which condition we need to pass a common problem. We'll say on customer ID. Of this table write customer ID of Amazon customers. What we will say? We'll say Amazon customers. If you want to tell that this is a field which is available in this particular bit extension, Amazon customers dot customer ID, is it equals to? This job is to work. This is how we can do it. But you can notice one thing that same, we are using this table name again and again. Marketing says that if you want to, what do we do? Let's say if somebody has a really long name, a really lengthy name, what do we do? We have a generally a fat name or a short name that we don't need to pronounce the entire name again and again make it becomes difficult. What we can do, we can give it another name that is called a short name that we can give. We'll say that this is my Amazon customers AC and it's a job of customers, not it is Amazon customers progress. We are joining the site. I would say this is my Amazon customers. I'm just giving a short name. We can give any name. I'm giving this a C and I'm giving this a C. I don't need to give this entire name. I'll just use AC and I'll give you the AC. You can also use this particular way as well, but this becomes very lengthy. Now it will make the hospital condition. What it will do? We need to join these two tables of first. It will go to this state extension and we are joining this. What it will do? It will find the first report and search the B40 in the another data extension. This one and it will fetch this particular. Wherever it finds B40, it will fetch. What it will do? It will first of all pick this report, go to the state extension and fetch these two reports. These two match the reports. Order number say 2. Now we are good with this particular report. We are done. Now it will move on to the next report. That is so simple. It will again go to the state extension and start a scan. Now none of the report will be found. It will not return any. Now again move on to the next report, B4005. We have got one report. Return one report. Test. No report found. This is how the back-end scanning will work. That is first. It will pick one report, go to another data extension, find the matching report and return the result. Let's click on the Run But account. And then we will see. If I take a minute or two. Anybody has any doubt for in terms of understanding the SQL? Where do we use select keyword from keyword and where keyword and then join keyword? We have like many things in SQL and marketing job, but you don't need to understand everything. But what you can do? And they address questions. Try to do that one. And we have all the resources for SQL in the book, social tools and other websites which are like really good. Just try to go through and understand the origin of SQL. Why do we need SQL? That you have the better understanding and the same section. Now we have got let's say we also want to have this order number. That is the IP address. And by once we have understood the same thing, we can retrieve the data. What we can do on the go? We can also manipulate the data. Let's say, whatever data we are getting from that data extension, we can also check its length. We can also format the data using the format function. We can also replace the data with another string. We can train, we can substring and these kind of things. These functions are generally the Excel functions, only the way we use in Excel. Let's see some and then you can practice the other. We have this this is the first name of the customer. Let's place this order and the first name, last name. Let's place this one. And let's set the order number, which is placed by round. And let's see if I want to check the first name, if I want to check the length of the first name. What I'll do? I'll use this function called length. It is length only. I'll use this function length and I'll use this step brackets. And then what I need to do? I need to pass the field name first. What it will do, that it will determine the length of the first name. The number of characters are there in the process. Similarly, we can use other functions as well. We understood that this is one place where we can write the skill query and then we can get the result. You will get the 5 inches of the length of the first name. Now let's go ahead and understand the other way to run the skill, that is the skill bring. Let's do one thing. Let's create a folder first of all. And this particular folder, but for you to be able to create this organization. Now this activity called skill query activity, what we are going to do, we are going to do the same thing using our skill query activity in automation. What are the different steps that we have over here? We have 4 steps over here. In order to create a new activity, we click on this create new activity and we have to give it a name. Let's say let's close. We have to give it a name to this activity and we are going to save this. Let's say you want to save this in a query location only. Now here we will go to the skill query. I'll do one thing. I'll copy the query from here. Let's remove the length from now. I'll copy this query and paste it over here. That this is our one. In case of Query Studio, we are getting the result, or we can see the result on the UI itself and just the right below of the editor. But here in automation, what we need to do is to select a node extension, a targeted extension. Then the result will be saved. It won't show on the UI. And it will not give us the result on the page, but it will be stored in the data extension. What we need to do, we need to select the data extension. For that, first of all, we have to create the data extension because we don't have any data extension. There we can store this information. What I'll do now, I'll create another data extension which will contain these 3 fields. I'll put a deep noted data extension. I'll say external order details, and then the next button, and then the next, and then what all fields we want to have in the data extension. We want the first node, and then the last node, and then the order. We have 3 different fields. First and last one, order number. Order number would be our number, and this will be the date. And we are making a return for now. What will happen? Whatever the result that we are getting, it will be stored on the particular data extension, which is the customer order details. Let's go to the Automation Studio. And here we have a variable value index. If we have any mistake here, let's say I'll use this thing, but it will give me the error. I can make the appropriate changes and then the number gets changed next. And if it is valid, then it will allow us to move to the next system. Now next step is to select a targeted extension. Let's go and choose the data extension that we have just created. I'll click on this one. Now it says that how do you want to store the data into the data extension? We have 3 different modes or 2 different actions. First one is the append and then update and then open. Append means that whatever the existing data that we have in the data extension, do not touch that. And the result, you just have to append the result. Let's say the data extension that we are choosing as a targeted extension, it already contains hindered reports. What we are saying that do not touch all the hindered reports. We may keep it like that. Whatever data that is being returned by the SQL belief, you just have to append those reports. That is the first option. In which scenarios we do that? Let's say we are sending this email every day and we want to create this historical database or historical data extension. Every day we are sending some rumors, let's say 100 emails, and we are storing this email in one data extension. We are not making any changes in the data that already exists, but we are just adding new reports. In that case, in your historical data, we can make the app anymore. Next, we have update. Update means that if a matching report is found, then we have to update the report. And if the matching report is not found, then we have to create a new report. In case, let's say, someone wants to update a profile, we can say that you can update your profile. You can select your first name, last name, and distance. And we see the matching report, and we will update the information. And if the matching report is not there, then we create a new report for the customer. And then, last but not least, is the override. Overwrite means that whatever the existing data that we have, delete all the data, and then the result that is returned by the query, we have to feed that data into the data extension. Let's say we have to delete all those uninstalled reports, and then whatever the result that we have got, it will feed that data into the data extension. Now the data extension is empty. Whatever we choose, it will go through the error. We will go ahead with the override for now, and we will click on the next one. One more thing, when choosing the update, we need to have a primary because what we are seeing is if the matching data is found. In order to find the matching report, we need some key right. We need a column that will be based on that employee ID or student's roll number. A key or attribute which cannot be created for this with the algorithm. We would like to find the report. Marketing now says that you have to have a primary email data extension. Then only you can use this update action. If we go to the next button now and click on finish. That's it. Now what we need to do, we need to run this. Now if we want to run any of the activities, we have a couple of ways. First, we learn that we can schedule the automation. What schedule is for the recurring process, or maybe we can schedule it. If you want to schedule this for later time, you can do that. But from now on, I am proud to say that we just want to run a particular activity. We have another option called run events. If you want to manually run this automation, let me save this first of all. We have this option called Run Once, and we click on this option. And then it will ask us what all activities are to run. We have to choose all those activities that it is selected, and we want to run this. And click on the Run button now. And I click Run now. And it will start running. We will go to the Activity tab. And here, in few seconds, it will start showing us the status that this is active within the process. It is in the running status now. Once it is complete, we will go back to the data extension to see whether we have got the reports or not. This is the small refresh icon. We can use the small submit button to refresh the activity. It says that the SQL query is complete. Now let's refresh this page to see whether we have got the reports or not. It says that we have got 3 reports. And let me click on the data extension. We will go to the reports. And then here I can see that the fields that we selected at the time of the SQL query, first name, last name, and all that number, we have got all the SQL. The same result we are getting over here because we are getting the same SQL query. And here also we are getting the same SQL query. Now, can anybody tell me the difference between the Query Studio and the SQL query activity? And maybe the pros and cons. And why should we use Query Studio and why should we use SQL query activity? There are a couple of differences, like as we understood that here we are getting the result on the web page only. But in terms of the SQL query activity, what do we need to do? We need to choose the data extension and then we need to get the result. Now how it is useful. If you want to test SQL query many a times, what happens? That the requirement is very complex. And we are not able to write the entire SQL query in one go. What we do, or sometimes we are able to write the SQL query in one go, but we are not getting the expected result. What do we do? We write the SQL query over here, click on the run button and we see the other. Whether we are getting the expected result or not. If not, then we will make some changes over here and again. Keep on the run. Query Studio is generally used for the testing purpose, where we can go ahead and execute the SQL query and get to see the result, whether the results are fine or not. And if everything looks good, what do? We copy the SQL query and then we paste it in the SQL query activity. Now SQL query activity is very beneficial when we want to automate the process. Let's say we have this master data extension and from there we need to extract the records every hour. And we need to send out the email to those customers. Let's say we have the customers from different countries and we only want to target the customers for now. We need to write a script query here. Country is equals to India. Now I want to put this process again and again every hour. That I get the most appropriate data in my data extension and then I can send out the email. But here we can automate this process. This is a vital process where we have to write the SQL query and click on the run button and then we will get the result. In case of automation, the main purpose of automation is to automate the task. If we want to automate the SQL query, we will use the SQL query activity. If we are using it for the testing purpose that we want to test whether the query is working fine or not, we can use the queries tool. Thank you. Please do like, share and subscribe to our channel.